I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to another episode of Old's Oscar Countdown. And this week we're going to be talking about the Golden Globes. The nominations just came out. Decided to give a little of my thoughts, my reactions, give some analysis of what this means ultimately for the Oscar race, and do a little bit of a different episode than past weeks. We're going to go into the continued scheduled programming for next week, but this week we're going to be talking all about the Golden Globes that just happened right now. So how this video is going to work, different than other videos that I do on this channel, but because I gave my Golden Globe nominations predictions just last Friday, I'm going to go through my predictions, see what I got right, what I got wrong, but first at the top of the show, I want to talk about some winners and some losers of the Golden Globes nominations, just in the general award season scheme. Just because they didn't get nominated at the Golden Globes doesn't mean they're not going to get nominated at the Oscars. What it does mean is maybe their movies aren't being as received as well as maybe we thought amongst the sort of people within the awards community. And it could also mean that, hey, the Globes didn't nominate these people, therefore we don't feel the need to sort of show that we have support for the movie, even if it's a movie that we don't absolutely love. I'll talk about that later. And I want to mention again that my Gold Derby ranking was once again within the top 5% of all voters. I got a total of 77% total, including the categories that Gold Derby didn't allow you to predict, but I still predicted, like score, like song, things like that. So still very accurate overall, even more accurate on those categories that are hard to predict, score, song, things like that. So once again, that's why you come to this channel, for incredibly high accuracy, top 5%, top of the heap predictions. That's why you come to this channel, to hear my analysis and my thoughts and my predictions. But starting off into the winners category, I think the big winner from this ceremony probably has to be Avatar: The Way of Water. And this was a movie I predicted to get nominated all the way back in October in my very first video for the 7th season here of Old Oscar Countdown. So I've always been a believer of it, but to see it get nominated here in the Best Film Drama category at the Globes, and then James Cameron also get in for director, it's a strong sign of the film in general. I expected to get a lot of technical nominations at the Oscars, so if you don't have Avatar within your Best Picture 10, I definitely think the way it's being received now that people have seen it, I think will be enough to put it into at least that Best Picture 10. And then also I think James Cameron can still be a contender within that director category, because usually when we're talking about Best Director at the Oscars, most of the time they have acting nominations. But if you look at the past 10 years, there's only been one year in which all 5 of the directing nominees also had a corresponding acting nominee. So if you're looking at your directing predictions, as am I, and you're going, okay, Sarah Polley and Todd Field and all these people, you know, Spielberg and the Daniels, and if all 5 of them have an acting nomination that you are also predicting, maybe you should think that instead, because it's only happened once in all the past 10 years in which all 5 of the nominees had an acting nomination as well. There's usually some sort of technical nomination, usually one saved for Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk, or George Miller and Mad Max Fury Road, a technical appreciation that doesn't have a lot of acting nominations but still gets in there. That could be James Cameron this year with his nomination here at the Globes. You could even see him getting in for DGA. He could be just one of those people that gets that automatic lock. Hard to tell right now, but keep an eye out for James Cameron. Avatar did very well here. Another Tar did very well here, and that's Tar, the Todd Field film. Despite Todd Field not getting in for Best Director, the film did sort of, I would say, overperform. It got in at screenplay, it got in for drama, and then it also got in, of course, for Cate Blanchett. So I think it overperformed in the screenplay category and then held its own in the drama category as well. So it just shows a strong sign that people appreciate this movie and they appreciate the screenplay as well. So that may be something you want to consider come Oscars. Then the Banshees of Inisherin also did very well at the Globes, which I predicted, so it's not a huge surprise to me, but overperforming with a Martin McDonagh nomination, overperforming with a Barry Keoghan nomination for Best Supporting Actor, even so far as getting a score nomination, which I predicted, but not a lot of people did, a score nomination for the Banshees of Inisherin. So this was a very well-liked movie within the Globes. We knew they liked Martin McDonagh's movies in the past. They're going to like this one again, and we could very much see a situation where the supporting actors category, which is really up in the air, maybe Kerry Condon wins and takes it over. Maybe Brendan Gleeson wins, and there's a whole sort of Banshees sweep with Colin Farrell winning too. There could be sort of a huge sweep on that regard too. Hard to say what's going to win as of right now, but I do think that they clearly like this movie, and clearly like Martin McDonagh's movies. You know, just look at Three Billboards, his last movie, how well it did at the Globes then. We could see a similar repeat here this year. And then another winner you have to mention is Pinocchio. It got nominated for Best Animated Feature, but it also got an Original Song nomination. So if that continues at the Oscars, that shows a general sign of support and appreciation for the film, and that should be enough to ultimately get it to the win, but sort of definitely guaranteeing, I think, an animation nomination at the very least for Pinocchio. Now, jumping over into the losers of the Golden Globes nominations, the big one has to be Women Talking. I was a believer in the movie with my nominations, giving it a bunch. It didn't get a lot. It only got in for screenplay. That was the only nomination it got. It didn't get in for best film drama. Didn't get in Sarah Polley for director, and neither of Claire Foy or Jessie Buckley got in for best supporting actress. So, listen, it's the Golden Globes, so that doesn't mean the who I'm talking is going to get nothing at the Oscars, but it's a movie that is going to be releasing later, so it's not like a movie that, like Glass Onion, which is already played in the theaters, or even Tar, or something like that, so there is, maybe a late push for something like Women Talking, but it is an interesting movie, because for the most part, from the critics and what we've heard, it always seems like a movie that you respect and intellectually like, more so than you feel there's a real passionate fan base behind Women Talking, and maybe some of that level of respect and lack of love heard it at the Globes, or maybe just not enough people saw it. There could be plenty of different reasons, but it is notable, whether it be Sarah Polley, or it not getting for film drama, or even any of the actresses. Certain people thought Claire Foy or Jessie Buckley could win for this movie. Them both getting nominated, I think, is a strong sign of weakness for that film. We'll have to see. I think it can still perform well at the Screen Actors Guild, at SAG, getting for an ensemble and a couple more acting nominations. But I do think what this hurts the most would be some of the more ancillary figures of Women Talking's campaign. So someone like a Ben Whishaw, I think, is sort of more so on the outside looking in of the best supporting actor category. Because from what we've seen so far, maybe there's not a lot of love right now for Women Talking. Another loser I felt was A Woman King, just because there was some sort of potential of Gina Prince Bythewood getting in for director, or even the film for best film drama. It only got in for Viola Davis, so that could still happen at the Oscars, getting a Viola Davis, but I do think that in general, Woman King, sort of in terms of the best picture lineup, I do think is still more so on the outside than within that top 10. And, make it a couple of technical nominations too, and still get Viola Davis, but right now I think Woman King may only get 1 or 2 nominations at the Oscars, and therefore I'm not predicting it for best picture. Another loser, I guess you would say, would be Glass Onion. I really thought Janelle Monáe, but they still liked Glass Onion. I mean, it got in for film comedy, it got in for Daniel Craig, so Janelle Monáe not getting in there was a little bit weird, and then the film not getting in for screenplay. I don't think that's going to happen at the Oscars, because this is just a singular screenplay category versus the Oscars has an adapted category. So keep that in mind, but Glass Onion maybe also sort of shows signs that it didn't get in for screenplay, it didn't get in for Janelle Monáe here. At the Globes, a group that you should like this movie more so than the Academy, just because of how much the Globes like the past Knives Out movie. You would think Janelle Monáe would get in here, but so the fact that she didn't get in and didn't get in for screenplay, I think that's another sort of 9, 10 Best Picture slot where Glass Onion could be on the outside looking in, so sort of moving those down. Top Avatar rises a little bit, I think. She Said even to a certain extent rises, but maybe Knives Out drops a couple places. Hard to tell for sure, but that's sort of my initial reading. Bardo was another movie that didn't get in for Best International Feature, so I think it pretty much kills its chances. I'd be surprised if it even gets a Best Director potential conversation nod. That is sort of completely wiped off, at least my board. And then final one would be Tom Cruise. We've heard that the Tom Cruise campaign will be starting soon, but it started a little bit too late for the Golden Globes. They liked Top Gun Maverick. They nominated it for Best Film, but they didn't want to nominate Tom Cruise. The Academy may feel similarly, and it may just be a picture and a bunch of technical nods, appreciation. Okay, now that out of the way, I'm going to go through each category briefly and talk about some of my sort of shocks and upsets and what this means or what this doesn't mean for the Academy, and some of my scores here. So, Best Film Drama, I went for 4 out of 5. I thought Women Talking would get in. Instead, it went to Avatar, so that's a boost for Avatar in terms of its Best Picture contenders, but I don't think it totally kills out something like Women Talking. I still have it in my Oscar Best Picture contenders as of right now. And in my Oscar Best Picture 10, then Best Actress Drama, I went 3 out of 5. They didn't go with the sort of new, younger actresses in Danielle Deadwyler and Naomi Ackie, instead going for the staples, Ana de Armas and Olivia Colman for Empire of Light. So now this doesn't mean either of them are going to get nominated for the Oscars. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. But I do think because, you have Olivia Colman, who's a great favorite, and then Ana de Armas in Blonde, this sort of great transformation playing Marilyn Monroe. I think there was an appreciation for that. But because there's not this sort of genre split between drama and comedy at the Oscars, I actually don't think either of them will get in as of right now. And even someone like a Viola Davis, I still don't think she can get into that top 5. Hard to say right now, but if anything, this sort of miss of Danielle Deadwyler for Till indicates maybe more vulnerability there. She may have fallen out of that top 5 for the Oscars. Hard to tell right now, but that doesn't help her. Then Best Actor Drama. I went 4 for 5 out of this one again, missing out on Hugh Jackman. I went with Tom Cruise for Top Gun just because I thought maybe they liked Top Gun enough. They did like Top Gun, not enough to put it Tom Cruise in there, instead going with a favorite for Hugh Jackman. So I think that actually helps Hugh's cases even in that Best Actor category, with that 4th and 5th slot being really difficult still for the Oscars. Best film, comedy, or musical. Went 4 for 5 again. I sort of made a big bet to go with The Menu in that final slot. I'm surprised that they didn't go with The Menu because they also nominated Anya Taylor-Joy and Ralph Fiennes. So it's weird that they didn't also want to go with The Menu here. Instead, they went with Triangle of Sadness. But they did nominate Dolly Delone on this Best Supporting Actress side, so it does make sense there. That was a sort of chalk pick. I decided to go a little bit off the grain. Got burned by that one, but still not too bad. The next category, Best Actress, Comedy, or Musical, I went 5 for 5, perfect, so no notes there. I don't really think Leslie Manville or Anya Taylor-Joy have chances in terms of the Oscars, just because that lead actress category is so competitive this year. I think they got it mostly because it was a comedy factor, but still happy that I went 5 for 5. Best Actor in Comedy or Musical, I went 4 for 5. They gave it to Adam Driver, one of their favorites, instead of someone like a Billy Eichner for Bros. Bros completely shut out here. I think that sort of box office results just really sort of tainted the film. But Adam Driver, White Noise, maybe there's still a little bit of a buzz for that, but I think this may be sort of its only nomination of the season. Best Supporting Actress was my biggest terrible category. I only went 2 out of 5 in this category because I bet on Claire Foy and Jessie Buckley both getting in for Woman Talking. That movie, of course, didn't do so well. Instead, we have Dolly Delone for Triangle of Sadness, which I think gives a little bit more of a boost to her chances in the Supporting Actress category, because at the Oscars, that Supporting Actress category almost every year is super competitive, super up in the air. So she's definitely a contender now. Interesting to see Jamie Lee Curtis get in, which I also predicted, but I think definitely sort of knocks Stephanie Hsu out of the race. She could get in at the Oscars, but it does seem like it was almost an announcement that, okay, from Everything Everywhere All at Once, the actress that we're gonna be really pushing in this category would be Jamie Lee versus someone like a Stephanie Hsu. Then Carey Mulligan for She Said. I think the fact that she got in here over some of the Women Talking actresses, I think sort of rockets her stock up to even a potential surprise dark horse winner factor. If you look at the category, it's super hard to predict. You know, maybe they want to give it to someone like a Carrie Condon at the Oscars, and that's a sort of Banshees of Inisherin award, which makes total sense, by the way. Or maybe this just means that the category is super wide open, and a dark horse like a Carey Mulligan could get in. I still have Carrie in my supporting actress predictions, and this only solidifies it. And then Angela Bassett for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. We heard a lot of buzz. There was a lot of campaigning for her, so interesting to see that she got in here. Once again, I think this does make her a contender, just because this category is so up in the air. This is the only thing we have to go off of, and Woman Talking did so poorly, and it's not like it's definitely Claire Foy versus Jessie Buckley. I mean, they're pretty tied. So I think it's either both Jessie Buckley and Claire Foy get in together, or none of them. That's kind of how I read it. So that means there's lots of spaces up available, which means someone like Angela Bassett could do well here. But like I talked at the top about, no Janelle Monáe here hurts at least her chances for the Oscars, because they still like Glass Onion, just not enough to nominate Janelle Monáe. Fascinating there. Best Supporting Actor, I also went 4 for 5. A little bit of a trend here. 4 for 5 in a lot of the categories. Always one off. You know, never perfect. Hard to beat. But I did very well here in terms of predicting Barry Keoghan for the Banshees of Inisherin would get in. That was sort of my big plus there. But I missed out on Brad Pitt for Babylon, and instead lost out for Paul Dano on The Fabelmans. Now, in my Oscar predictions, I was sort of out on Paul Dano. What really this tells me is that Paul Dano or Judd Hirsch, I think, are maybe on the outside looking in for The Fabelmans. You know, every year we're looking at always one movie that has multiple nominations in one of those supporting categories. At least that has been for the past 5 years. Maybe we thought it was maybe going to be Woman Talking. We thought maybe it would be The Fabelmans, but maybe it's just going to be The Banshees of Inisherin with Brendan Gleeson and Barry Keoghan. That's a strong possibility now too, and the fact that both Paul Dano missing out and Judd Hirsch hurts The Fabelmans a little bit, just because it doesn't have that overall support. But it was something that I was predicting. Didn't predict it for this award show, but it happened a little bit earlier than I thought. Paul Dano missing out. Best Director, I went 3 for 5. This one hurts. I really wanted to go with a Baz Luhrmann for Elvis. Instead, decided to go basic and chalk. Got hurt by that and missed out on both James Cameron and Baz Luhrmann. Like I talked about at the top of the show, I think this is a strong sign for James Cameron. Baz Luhrmann, maybe less so. I'm not sure if the Academy will really love Elvis in the same way that the Globes do, just because, you know, the Globes really like those sort of music biopics more so even than the Academy. And I do think the Academy is more, we'll call it prestige-y, kind of a snooty kind of a taste may go towards a film like a Tar or a Woman Talking. I still think for that directing category. And then Martin McDonagh for the Banshees of Inisherin. This may have solidified his chance of getting in there. No Damien Chazelle for Babylon, which is interesting. You know, Babylon has sort of decreased in odds in terms of its chances of winning Best Picture since people have seen it, but it's still a contender, I think, for Best Director, just because if you've seen the movie, what Damien Chazelle does with the film is so magnificent and broad and exciting and very kind of masculine in the way that it's just so over the top and grandiose. So I do think there's a lot of almost showy directing going on in Babylon. It's definitely a statement, and I think Damien could still get recognized for that, but he didn't get recognized here, so maybe that's a little bit of a knock, because, hey, they still like Margot Robbie, they still like Brad Pitt, they still like the film, but not enough for a director. So interesting there. Best Screenplay went 4 for 5. Missed out on Glass Onion. Instead, it went to Tar. Not a lot of big debate there, just because this is the screenplay category. At the Oscars, of course, they separate into original and adapted, so I think all those movies will get nominated. Animated Feature went 4 for 5. Not getting it on Pinocchio, Turning Red, and Marcel the Shell, but missing out with The Bad Guys. Instead, they nominated Yeoh, which was a G-Kids film. Now, the G-Kids, as a distributor, do very well every year at the Oscars. They've been sort of missing out a couple of years. Maybe this is their return. The fact that this got nominated is a strong sign. I predicted once again that a DreamWorks movie is going to get nominated, so it was either going to be The Bad Guys or Puss in Boots. It ended up being Puss in Boots. That seems to be the one that's sort of the leader over a movie like The Bad Guys, so I'd actually put The Bad Guys out of my sort of animated feature predictions, put in Puss in Boots. You still want that DreamWorks movie, as I explained in the animated feature episode. You still want DreamWorks movie in, but Puss in Boots seems to be a little bit more dominant right now than The Bad Guys. But watch out for Yeoh. That could still get in, but I'm not sure it's a guarantee. You know, let's not forget about something like a movie like My Father's Dragon. I still think has a possibility in the Oscars. Best Film non the English language went 4 for 5 once again. Lost out on Bardo, so that means for my mind, if it didn't get in here, it's probably not going to get in anywhere at the Oscars. That seems like it's a little bit of a dud. Instead, it went to Argentina 1985, which is fascinating. That's Argentina's selection, which is a film that's being distributed by Amazon Prime Video, so it has a lot of visibility. Could get in at the Oscars, but does seem a little bit more populist, which the Globes more so like, versus, say, the Oscars, which may go for a more prestige kind of a film like a Saint Omer, but it does provide some interest in the regards of, you know, I think RRR now has a serious chance at getting an Oscar. Same thing with All Quiet on the Western Front, same thing with Decision to Leave, and same thing with Close. I think they're all in that sort of contention, at least for Best International Feature at the Oscars. Best Original Song here went 4 for 5 once again. Missing out on Turning Red. Instead, they went to Pinocchio. Just a strong sign there that they like Pinocchio, but once again, with Taylor Swift and Rihanna, they really want those stars there. And the Best Original Score, I went 5 for 5, so another 5 for 5 for me. So no missing out there, just another strong sign that they still like the Banshees of Inisherin, and they still like something like a Babylon. So people thought Babylon would maybe be out of their top 10. You know, some people have made that predictions. That was stupid if you did. I've never doubted that. It may not win Best Picture, but Babylon's still a contender, you know, getting in for score here, getting in for Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie. I think both of them have a strong chance now to get nominated as well, and Babylon ultimately do well at the Oscars. But that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you comment below your scores for Golden Globes. Give me a like and a nice thumbs up for getting in the top 5% of Gold Derby. Once again, high accuracy and ranking, 77%. That's why you come to this channel, to listen to my predictions, to listen to my thoughts, so you do well and impress your friends and ultimately have a good time. That's why I do it. But that's about it. Until next time, stay tuned.